You can employ the use of a grid to help you to align your objects in Illustrator by going to the View menu and scrolling down to the Show Grid option, where you'll be given the default grid. I'll talk about how to customize this grid in just a moment. Now we can grab our objects and try to align them along any axis here. So we can try on the X and Y axis to try to lock something on. And speaking of locking on, there's an easier way to try to move your objects so they actually do lock onto the lines in the grid, and that's called snapping. We can go to the View menu and go back to the grid area and choose Snap to Grid. Now I don't have to try so hard to align these objects. It will lock on to the nearest intersection by itself. Of course, you have to guide it and then let go of the mouse when you feel it kind of lock into place. Let's go ahead and talk about how to actually change the grid itself. Let's go to the Illustrator Preferences and choose the Guides and Grid section. And in this section, we are able to change the color of the grid lines themselves. So we have light gray, but you can change it to anything you like. So I'll change it to light blue. I can also change the style. Currently, we're looking at lines. Let's go ahead and make it dots. And we'll come back here in a second. So now we have light blue dots. Let's go back to the Preferences and go back and change it back to gray and lines. We can also change the grid line. Currently, the grid line is every 1 inch with 8 subdivisions. Let's make it every 2 inches and make it every 4 subdivisions. Click OK. And we've increased the size of the grid dramatically. And this is helpful when you really don't want to see that many lines, when you're trying to perhaps work on perspective, or you're trying to draw a character and you want to just be able to focus on the proportions of that character to make sure the eyes are lined up and that kind of thing. So when you finish experimenting with that, just go back to Guides and Grid and put it back to 1 and 8 if you so desire, or leave it as it is. We can also have the grids, when I deselect this, appear in front of our objects, which I normally don't like very much. But if you want to see the grids for maybe architectural work or whatever, you can choose that option as well. So I'm going to go back to Preferences once again and put this so that the grids are in back of my shapes. So that is how you use grids to help you to align your artwork and to help you to create artwork that may have some symmetrical properties based on the alignment of the objects that you draw on the grid.